In this video I'm going to make a build from parts that I have lying around and I meant to use with other projects, but they didn't quite work in them. Specifically these parts, the motherboard and Optane memory module and the DDR4 RAM were meant to be used with QL2X engineering sample CPUs, but it turns out some motherboards are not compatible with it because that BGA to LGA CPU needs a customized BIOS. This board apparently had a problem with it and the Taobao seller couldn't make the BIOS. This Optane memory module didn't work either. I tried it on another board with QL2X, but it complains about unrecognized BIOS version since it's a customized BIOS. So I'll be putting it in this build and I'll be selling this and getting rid of it that way. This build will have just a regular Intel i5-7400 CPU and a GTX1060 3GB version. This will also have 16 gigs of some RGB RAM of AliExpress and an XPG nvme SSD. By the way, if you do have an Optane module installed and an RGB SSD at the same time, the RGB control software will not detect the RGB SSD, at least the Asus Aura does not, probably since it is set to Intel RST and not AHCI. This Bitfenix Nova case used to house my Hackintosh video editing rig project. I've now moved it to another case. I'll make a video about that one soon. I originally bought this motherboard used and it had no IO shield. I ordered this plastic one off eBay. It's apparently been 3D printed. I don't like this case at all actually, and I'm happy to get rid of it. It's typical modern case which has the front panel completely closed and it probably doesn't have the best airflow due to that, but I do think it will be entirely fine with this hardware. The cable management is certainly not the best one, but since this is luckily an ATX case, it does have space in it enough so that cables can be tucked somewhere. The back area is still not quite enough to completely solve the cable problem, and they need to be carefully arranged in there for the side panel to fit in place. Well, apart from these cases, obvious, cheap and plasticky look, I think this build turned out better than I imagined, with these matching white parts and some RGB lighting. The performance is around at the same level than RX 480 or 470 measured by benchmarks, but in games it seemed to be a little better. Maybe the 16 gigabytes of RAM helps to smooth out the lows